Well, here's my thought. Hold these things in your heart. Last Sunday, this is sort of on my mind, and so Christmas and all that stuff. And so Mary and Joseph and Jesus, and he's born in a manger, and we know all that story. And at some point, it says in the gospel, and Mary, she held all these things in her heart. And the notion, we think, is, oh, she's quiet, she's passive, she's silent. Keep it to yourself. She wasn't going around saying, have you met my son Jesus? She was quiet. But the truth is, she wasn't quiet, she was anchored. She wasn't silent, she was centered. She kept all these things in her heart so that she could live all these things in her life. Which is to say, it's not about puro blah, blah, blah. It's not about talking. It's about living as though the truth were true. I remember years and years ago, a woman who worked here came up to me and she goes, hey, you're not going to believe it, I ran into Tito. And Tito was a knucklehead from a neighborhood who I'd known for a long time, just got out of prison. I said, well, how does he seem to you, since he was such a knucklehead? She goes, well, apparently Tito found Jesus in prison, and now he has Jesus in a headlock, and Jesus is turning blue, poor thing, she says. Well, I knew exactly what she meant. With puro blah, blah, blah. It's nonstop Jesus, 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 Jesus. And the truth, of course, is to keep these things in your heart so that you can live these things in your life. So many years ago, there was a homie who worked here. We'll call him Lefty. Big old gang member, tattoos, was locked up. He would always speak in a way that was quite odd. Like he'd leave at the end of the day and he'd turn to everybody, he'd say, pip, pip, cheerio. Excuse me, what? And once I asked him, I said, hey, how you doing, Doc? I'm zestfully clean, thank you very much. like he was a visitor from another planet. Once, he was 19 and another homie here, an enemy, a terrible enemy of his. They flew with me to Washington, D.C., and we were going to give talks there, and we stayed with my brother and his wife in D.C., and so at the end of a day, after giving a bunch of talks, he and his enemy, with a coworker, were upstairs watching TV, watching Gremlins. I always remember that, Gremlins. And I'm down in the living room with my brother and his wife. At the end of the day, we're having a beer. And Lefty comes downstairs and he opens the refrigerator, help himself, to soda, and he sees that we're having a beer, and he says, hey, can I have a beer? I said, no. And he stares into the open refrigerator. It would mean a lot to me. No. Then he reaches in the refrigerator to grab something, and he pulls himself back. I would cherish this moment. He says, okay, who talks like that? Anyway, one day he came in and he confided something that happened the day before, and he goes, I know, I made a mistake. It was a bad call. He was walking home, and a carload of his homies pull up. And he gets in, we'll give you a ride home. And as they're driving down this big main driveway, one of the guys in the car said, hey, look at that fool over there. We just caught him slipping. A guy named Rascal from an enemy neighborhood. And they said, well, let's pull over, so that we can take flight on this guy. And Lefty says, no, kick back. Leave him alone. Leave him alone? And Lefty says, yeah, he's my primo. He's your cousin? Yeah, he's my aunt's son. Leave him alone. And they pull back into traffic. Now, I don't recall, as he told me that story, that at any moment did he use the word Jesus. And he kept these things in his heart so that he could live these things in his life. It's about being Jesus, seeing Jesus. It's not about this. It's not about yakking. And of course, it's no surprise to anybody that Rascal is not his cousin. So, it's not about being quiet, it's about being anchored. It's not about being silent, it's about being centered so that you can live these things that you hold in your heart, so that you can live them in your life. And if we all do that, we're zestfully clean. Amen. Sal Jacon. Sal Jacon.